Hello guys, this is the second part of my little series on the speaking exam of the IELTS. I'm going to give you some advice in three parts. So the first part is going to be advice for preparing. The second part will be advice just before the exam. Okay? Maybe you're in the test center, maybe you're in British Council, you're about to take the exam. What should you do, or what should you be doing? And the third part of advice that I give you will be advice for you during the exam. Okay, so what should you be saying? What should you look like? How should you be acting? So let's start with preparation. What do you need to prepare for the exam? The first and most obvious thing that you should be doing is practicing. So you can practice by yourself, or if you have different friends that are also going to take the IELTS exam, practice with them. Even better, if you have a friend that speaks English, or he or she is perhaps from an English-speaking country, then practice with that person a little bit and try to become more fluent. The second thing you can do to prepare is time yourself. As you know, the answers during the speaking test should be anywhere between 1 to 2 minutes, or maybe just a few seconds. It depends on the question, really. But you will definitely have to watch how long you're speaking. So if you time yourself, this is a great way to learn about how much you actually speak and how long it takes you to express yourself. The third thing you should do is record yourself. So not only time yourself, but if you record yourself, you can listen to what you're saying, and you can listen to how fluently you're speaking. Along those lines, improve fluency. Fluency is very important, so you can watch movies, you can listen to music, just speaking in general and getting used to different patterns will all contribute to your fluency improvement. Number 5, I would say definitely use exciting words. Before, I talked about not using words like bad or good or nice, okay? You do not want to say, yeah, my family is very nice, they are good people. No, tell me something more interesting, okay? Say, yeah, my brother is really caring and he really loves our family. Therefore, I love being around him and he really helps us out when he can. Okay, for example, that is much more interesting than saying, my brother is good, he does good things for our family. Let's see, pronunciation. I talked about pronunciation before. This is very important. If you are not pronouncing words correctly, then I can't understand you, and the examiner will not be able to understand you. So make sure you are saying things, and make sure you are saying things correctly. Now, once again, don't worry about the accent. The accent is not a problem. Everyone has a different accent. So that's not something that you should try to correct or improve. I would say a lot of people in general, many students will try to prepare answers before the test. Task 1 of the speaking exam is pretty easy. They just ask you questions about your family, about your house maybe, about your car, about your city, your country, just normal everyday things. This should be easy enough for you to speak about, quickly. You do not need to prepare answers for these. And if you do, sometimes the IELTS examiner, they will catch it and they will change the question to something else. As well, it will kind of confuse you. If they ask you questions that you are not expecting, then you will obviously not be prepared for those questions and may or may not answer well. The final piece of advice I would give you as you are preparing for the speaking exam is to practice all of this advice before the exam. So do not watch this video and then try to remember all of this advice I'm giving you for the exam. You should use all of this advice right now while you are preparing, so that during the exam you are just focusing on what you need to say instead. Okay? Alright, good deal. Second part of, well, my pieces of advice for you just before the exam. There are just a few things that I would recommend. Number one, when you wake up in the morning, start practicing English right away. If you have friends that you're with, or if you have family that speaks English, just speak English to them. Get prepared, get used to speaking English that morning. The second thing I would also say is, a lot of times my students, they will get nervous. They will go out the day of the IELTS exam, and they will get coffee, and they will drink a lot of coffee, and soon they will be wired, and they will be all over the place. Their head will be spinning, and they will be very nervous because caffeine contributes to anxiety. So try to eat something good, drink something that's healthy, and enter your exam feeling good. You do not want to be nervous or very anxious for it. The last piece of advice I would give you for just before the exam would be to dress nicely. Okay, appearance can really make a difference sometimes. As you may know, the bands can be half bands. Okay, so sometimes you can get a 4, you can get a 5, you can get a 6, but you can also get a 6.5, or you can get a 7.5 or a 4.5. Now, sometimes it's difficult, okay? The examiner might think, should I give a half band, or should I just keep it at a 4 or 5, okay? For example, if you dress nicely, if you're a polite person, if you have a fun personality, if you don't smell, okay, make sure you take a shower, brush your teeth, okay, normal things like that. This can never hurt you, and it might in fact actually help you in some cases. So make sure you use common sense, dress fairly nicely. You don't need a tie, you don't need a suit or anything, but walk in with clean clothes, clean hair, you know, clean teeth, everything. Go in looking the best you can. Okay, and the third part of my advice would be advice for you during the exam itself, okay? The first thing I would recommend is always make eye contact with the examiner, okay? The reason for this is if you're looking around like this while you're talking, you do not look confident, okay? And looking confident is another piece of advice that's extremely important. The point of the IELTS speaking test is to see how you would speak in a real-life situation. That's why fluency is very important, okay? But you also want to be very confident, and you want to be very natural when you speak, and therefore eye contact is very important. Try the best to speak only English, okay? Do not say things in other languages. If you have to, then make sure you explain what that word or phrase means in your language, okay? For example, in Arabic, if I am an Arabic-speaking student, if I sit down with the IELTS examiner, and the examiner asks me, okay, what is a common hiring aspect, okay? If I say, well, in Saudi Arabia, wasta is very important, okay? Wasta, if you do not speak Arabic, it means knowing someone who knows another person, okay? So you know someone who knows someone who knows someone to help you either get a job or to get into school or anything really, it doesn't matter. Make sure you explain what wasta means, or make sure you explain whatever the word or phrase is so that the IELTS examiner knows, and also they want to know that you can define this word in English, okay? That's very important. Try not to speak other languages at all if you can, but if you must, explain it. Let's see, I would also say give yourself time to think, okay? When the examiner asks you a question, you will usually be expected to answer immediately, okay? During IELTS Speaking Task 2, you will actually have a minute to prepare. So in that case, you're fine. But IELTS Speaking Task 1 and IELTS Speaking Task 3, you will need to speak almost immediately. So there's a trick. You can use words like well, or you could say Or you could say, well, that's a pretty easy question, okay? These are all the things that you can just say. They don't really mean anything, but it buys you a little bit of time for you to think and then start your answer afterwards, okay? So there are all sorts of different ways you can do that. I'm going to try to post some phrases and words that you can say as filler words, okay? Words you would say before to buy you time. I will try to post something on my website for that. Let's see, another piece of advice. If you have an error when you are speaking, try to correct it almost immediately. If you correct what you were saying immediately, it shows that you actually do know the right way to say it. If you do not correct it, then the IELTS instructor may think, okay, the student obviously does not know how to use past perfect, for example, or this student obviously does not know what the meaning of ambitious is, okay? So if you make an error, correct it immediately if you can. One of the last pieces of advice I would give you is make sure you develop your answers, okay? This means many things. So number one, make sure you are speaking a lot. You should usually be speaking more than the IELTS examiner. By speaking a lot, it shows that you are confident and you are also able to hold a conversation for a long time. While you are speaking, make sure you organize your thoughts, okay? A lot of times I listen to people and I know they're nervous, but I listen to people who have spaghetti thoughts, okay? The thoughts are all over the place. They will have an introduction sentence in the middle of what they're saying. And they might have supporting arguments in random places in their small speech. So try to think about organization. Make sure you're clear, okay? Clarity is very important. If I do not understand you at all, then what you are saying is not important, okay? I just don't understand what you are saying, and it is no longer English, really. So, and that goes for all languages, of course, right? The last thing you need to make sure you are doing to develop your answers is to stay on topic. Okay? It can be very easy sometimes to start talking about something and then that will slowly lead into something else completely different. So always stay on topic, listen to the question and answer it specifically. But try to speak a lot about it, give some details, an introduction, maybe a little conclusion. That's always optional. Okay? One last piece of advice. I really like this. It depends what you are saying and in which context. But if I or an IELTS examiner asks you a difficult question, lie if you can't come up with something. This is not a moral issue because it's just a test. They want to see that you are able to speak. So if you need to, if they ask, okay, describe your car for me, please. Okay? If you are really not sure how to describe your car, or let's say it's a pretty regular car, you don't have much to say about it, just lie. Say, oh, I have a 2006 Ferrari F60. It's red and it's very beautiful. It cost me $200,000 and I borrowed that money from my dad in order to pay for the car. I like taking the car around the country because I can get a lot of speeding tickets and everyone looks at my car when I drive past. Okay, obviously I do not have a Ferrari, but it doesn't matter. It could be true, and the IELTS examiner never knows who you truly are. They also don't care. It's not a big deal. They just want to see that you're able to describe something and talk about it a little bit. So, by lying, it can sometimes be fun. You can kind of make up different situations. It can also be helpful because sometimes it's easier to talk about something that does not relate to you than something that is more similar to your situation or something you have. Okay? So, when in doubt, just lie, make something up, start talking about it, but be organized, clear, and fluent about your speech. So, this is all advice I have for you. I will give you a little more advice down the road in the next few videos. But until then, thank you, and I will speak to you again soon.